And as mentioned earlier, on the pitch, Canada continued their Olympic campaign amid all the chaos, defeating France in a dramatic must-win match, one that saw France take a lead in the 42nd minute through Marie-Antoinette Katoto, before Canada responded in the 58th minute with an equalizer from Jessie Fleming and a 102nd minute winner from Vanessa Gilles. And Brendan, you've been in the CBC sports office during the Olympic Games. You can imagine the reaction when Canada scored the 102nd minute winner. One person who will remain unnamed says, "Is that offside?" Because it looked potentially offside. You question any goal these days.
You thought it was offside, Ben? You were worried. You didn't want to celebrate. You thought it was offside.
You never want to celebrate a goal these days. Especially when that comes off a rebound. But just electric in the way that Canada was able to get that goal, and I thought that was one of the best halves, at least the second half, that Canada's played in years. Like, they were mad. They were pissed off. It wasn't, let's have some fun, like Hoga Benito kind of thing. It was like they were pissed off. They had a fire in their belly, and they showed it and won.
I loved so much of how that played out, but what I don't think I truly anticipated was that it would feel like a final. Right? How many times do we look at a final, the tale of two halves? Even this past Euro final, to me, that was so that, and you saw the quality come through. Mind you, we haven't spoken about France had injuries to two of their most important defensive players in the goalkeeper and Wendy Renard that played some factor, certainly mentally, and I think that motivated Canada. What I love is that they were persistent. It wasn't a 10-minute high that the keeper's out, let's go, and then they fizzle away because they got frustrated and they couldn't do it. Like, it continued to the end. Then you have a center back scoring with her left foot in the box. Like, let's go. I was very happy for Gilles. I was very happy for the end of that story, that game story to be what it was. It was thrilling, man. And this team has always been able to create these unforgettable, thrilling moments against the odds. Right? This is legal. This is ethical. This is different than before, where you're just dealing with general incompetence and a lack of funding. But that's in the DNA of this Canadian women's national team, to always come through against the odds.
And all I want to say is, do not forget Kaylin Sheridan about 97th or 98th minute. Ball falls to Marie-Antoinette Katoto. 3 goals this Olympic. Incredible striker. Sheridan flies over in some acrobatic split, just throws her hands up, gets a palm on it. One of the best saves in ever, and for Canadian soccer, and just the fact, especially that just minutes later, that was one of those saves. As soon as it happened, you know what? Maybe Canada is playing with a bit of destiny right now in terms of this actual game, because Katoto scores. Everyone's sad. Canada loses. They're out the tournament pretty much. But no, Sheridan gave them a lifeline. And Gilles, what I loved about the goal is just her celebration. The way, instead of running or just running the bench, the way she just went down on her knees and just screamed, it kind of summed up how that Canadian team was feeling, where they just felt like they needed to let all this pent out frustration, anger from such a tough week for them. And it felt like that second half was like that, like you mentioned, Ben. It was mad. It was just going out there and playing their soccer. And that's the best thing about Canadian teams. Canadian teams always seem to be at the best when they're underestimated, when they got a chip on their shoulder, when they're up against it. And the fact that, they were down 1-0 against the hosts, everything was against you, you need to win. The fact that we saw the best version of this Canadian team, one without their coach on the sideline, one amid all this, it shows that this is a good team. And that's also why maybe it's been frustrating at times to not see them play like this, because they have this in them. That they can really play like this. The first half was frustrating because Canada wasn't clicking into gear. I think it was great for them to have a half like this, and hopefully they can build off this as a bit of an important moment.
And from at Zunderholtz, does Canada still not understand their best lineup? Why are Chloe Lacasse and Adriana Leon on the bench in a must-win game? I'd argue Viens over Prince just because of form at the club level. Alvin Viens, of course, delivering in that first game as well. But, when you look at the Canadian women's national team now, it's Annie Spence's Canadian women's national team at the moment, and he showed some, maybe boldness, individual thought, however you want to, put it. But it was a little bit different to see the Canadian team play under Spence than it was, necessarily in that first game when it was still very much Priestman's plans and she was going to come back into the picture. This is Spence's team for, these important games, and then we'll see about the future.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking actually was this Spence's touch, or was this the players taking the wheel? Because even, Becky, who we all know makes such a tremendous impact on and off the pitch. I do think that I don't know, in the past I think that she would like start a game like that and they try and let's just hope we get to the 50th minute. Whereas this was we'll trust the process. It's a build, and then you could have Max Becky at a moment that worked out incredible when you had France's two best defensive pieces off the pitch, right? So yeah, I don't know how much credit I give to Spence, not to take it away, but I think that they're playing for each other as a team right now, and I think they're playing for him, and they definitely playing for each other, but playing with him and want to prove everybody wrong. They want a gold medal more than they did 3 years ago. Really, now I think that this is lit such a fire under them, and hopefully they're not fatigued going into Colombia. Physically and mentally, that 103 minutes was a lot, right? One of those elements is enough to be exhausted for a group deciding game. I just hope they got enough left in the tank, Alex.